Hello everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all those kind of gubbins, season's greetings from Archant Towers, where it's not just me and Dave. Head of Sport Chris Lakey's over there. You can't see him thumbs upping, but he is thumbs upping. And I'm here, Michael Bailey, with David Freezer, having been to Colney on a Friday. It just doesn't feel like a normal Friday, but we have been to Colney to take in the pre-match press conference for Norwich City ahead of their trip to Burton Albion, of course, on Saturday, which rounds off 2017. We'll bring you some of the key points. If any of you are out there with nothing better to do on this Friday, then that's lovely. Thanks for joining us. Get your questions and comments in, and we'll try and address those too in the next 10 minutes or so. We might try and keep it sharp.
It's kind of that dead time between Christmas and New Year, isn't it? Where everyone else is sat at home watching films.
Having fun.
Where I'd like to be.
Yeah, quite, yes. And perfect time for a football match, of course. And Norwich heading to Burton. I think we're all kind of aware of what this game means in terms of the fact that Norwich went there last year, Dave, and got turned over. And for some players, that was the low point of what they could manage last year, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, that and the Rotherham game were real low points for that Alex Neil team, weren't they? And ones that the fans who were there will not forget in a hurry. So I did have a look earlier, actually, which players who are still here played in that game. Closer, Pritchard, Tetty, Jerome, Wildscott, Josh Murphy, Wes Houlihan, all in that game. So hopefully it's still fresh in the memory. It certainly was for Alex. We spoke to him today, Alex Tetty, and yeah, they need to put that right. I hadn't realised until we started looking, sort of digging in for the game today. They've lost 8 home games on the bounce. So clearly, as Norwich were in recent months, looking to put to bed their own bad home run, they're going to be desperate to get back on track.
Yeah, it's sort of there's a whole website built on Norwich and these runs, aren't there? And even Josh Murphy picked up on it after the game at Birmingham. He said, we're always being told that Norwich are playing this team who haven't won in however long, or this team, and it's like, Norwich will turn up, so that'll be that. So
along come Norwich.
Fully ingrained with the way Norwich City do things. So we got to speak to Daniel Farke today and Alex Tetty. You can watch a lot of what both said on the PinkUn YouTube channel and at PinkUn.com, so head over there and you'll be able to see everything you need from those two and some really interesting stuff from both. We'll get stuck into team news first, shall we, because that's normally what people want to know first out. Seemed pretty positive. The one bit I asked was Alex Pritchard had a fairly heavy whack and he was limping away from St Andrews, even though he played most of the game. He's all good for Saturday, so that's very good news.
Yeah, and Cameron Jerome, Wes Houlihan, both back in as well. Cam's had a back problem, hasn't he? And Wes a hip issue, which has also sort of caused a problem with his groin. So he said Wes fine, back in training, not an issue. Jerome a little bit more tentative, but both available for tomorrow. Marcus Stiepermann's got a groin issue. He misses tomorrow and Millwall, which of course follows on quickly on Monday at Carrow Road. And just checked on Grant Hanley as well. He did get quite a blow to the knee in the Brentford game, wasn't it? Yeah,
feels like a long time ago already.
Yeah, the home game to Brentford, but he's fine. He could have played at Birmingham if it was needed. So from where we were, a month or two ago when it was just a lengthy old team news bulletin, and we, there were times when it almost stretched 15 minutes with Daniel talking about team news. We rattled that off nice and quickly, really. Today,
did,
sort of 3-4 minutes, wasn't it?
Which does certainly make life a lot easier in those respects. And I guess after team news, we really got stuck into January transfer speculation. It's lots of bits and bobs, and I might do some bits on it before Saturday. I don't know, but in terms of the ones that Daniel spoke about, Dave, you did well to get answers out of him for some of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it, can you? January is days away, and Daniel knew that. And to be fair, he was pretty good on it. He was willing to speak about it, but equally he had a flat bat ready that Jeffrey Boycott would have been proud of. So as far as Russell Martin to Rangers link goes, he and Cameron Jerome to Cardiff, he wasn't going to comment. He said, we have a sporting director, I'm the head coach, I'm focusing on the football, we've got a lot of games at the moment. You need to speak to Stuart Webber if you want to get comments on that, but clearly we don't get to speak to Stuart Webber every week, so that's kind of an easy out for Daniel, but he is the head coach, that is the role, that's the way things are set up, so he has that option, but he was happy to talk up Russ, as he's done many times, still described him as the club captain, which I thought was interesting. Obviously Ivo Pinto is the team captain as things stand. and spoke well of Russ's attitude, his professionalism, all those things that we know. Whether that's just keeping the price up or keeping interest in Russ, we'll find out as to whether he actually leaves. But we're not expecting him to be on the bench tomorrow, are we? So what Russ's future is, I don't know. But a loan to Rangers would seem to suit all parties, really.
I mean, it was the sort of thing that when I heard it, I thought, oh yeah, you can. And sometimes you can just tell if something's going to happen or not. And it will be very interesting to see if that does come off. I have a feeling that it might. I don't know, and there's probably quite a few people who don't know yet. But
and it's similar with Jerome, isn't it? It seems to sort of tick the box. Cardiff, a team he used to play for. Neil Warnock, he's probably going to use him in the way that would suit his abilities, whereas he doesn't quite fit with Daniel Farke's style, does he? But again, Daniel doesn't comment on it really.
We tried. You did a good job, Dave. You got a bit out of him.
We got a bit out of him, but that's about it. But no, he didn't give us anything concrete, I suppose is probably fair to say.
Which is again very unlikely that we'd ever get that too. I just have a feeling that both Cam and Russ won't be here once the window closes, one way or another.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. Maybe Jerome. It just depends whether anyone offers enough for Jerome, really. I mean, if Cardiff are going to pay $1 million plus at his age and the lack of game time he's had, I think everyone would probably be happy with that. And then, of course, we had the Onel Hernandez one, which is kind of a social media incident almost it's become, isn't it? Supposedly Daniel spotted talking to him, who plays for Eintracht Braunschweig, who play in the Bundesliga, who's a Cuban winger. And you guys out there in social media land got your detective hats out on, and it certainly looks like him. and Daniel didn't say that it wasn't him. He admitted he knows the guy, that he knows him well, he likes him as a player, but he basically laughed it all off, didn't he? It all goes in the mix with the sort of furore around the January transfer window, and everyone's very excited for it to start happening. So whether that guy is going to turn up and we're going to see him holding the Norwich City scarf, I'm still would say is in the balance. It looks like he probably did talk to him, but I think Daniel just found it all quite funny how it evolved. I mean, he was told that he was in a German newspaper, so
yes,
clearly people back home flagged it up to him.
Indeed, and the answer, you can see that on the YouTube interview with Daniel, is a masterclass in avoiding actually giving an answer, because at one point he rattles into a anecdote about having to go to Chapelfield to exchange.
Into Chapelfield, he remembered the full name, didn't he?
Our Mal, I don't know how the Castle Mal feel about that, to say that he needed to exchange presents from the many mistakes he made, and he had to go and substitute them. Now, I laughed, I kind of took that as a football joke, but watching it back, I'm still not convinced Daniel meant as a football joke, but
But it worked.
It worked on many levels. Yes, I think Onel Hernandez has been around, but I think if you look at it, he's playing in the Bundesliga at the moment. And that, for me, makes it seem that you wouldn't necessarily bring him in automatically unless you got rid of someone first. And I think maybe if Cam and Russ move, that opens it up. Maybe it'll take more than that. Maybe it'll need a big sale. But
Wilsgert is, somebody that's possible. Maybe Wigan pushing for League One promotion. I'm sure they'd happily have him back. So whether they could afford to, or whether Norwich would just wipe off some of what they haven't already paid or something like that, would seem a possibility. Yannick doesn't seem totally happy, does he?
Well, it's not involved a lot, but that would be from £4 million to 400 grand probably, or maybe 40 grand, I don't know, but it'd be some fall. Keep the questions coming in. We'll get stuck into those in a little bit. Daniel did talk about Burton, of course, the game coming up, and he likened it quite a lot to Birmingham, but I think this is tougher, because I think Burton, although they're probably not as good, they probably don't have as good a players, and they, just the way they continually punch above their weight, which I know is something of a cliche, but they are well aware of where they are. Nigel Clough is so honest about their situation and how they're not expected to win a game all season, effectively, which is true because their budget is ludicrous. So that kind of realism and honesty of where they are, I think, just makes it a really tough game for Norwich. And the way that they really dug in last year and really ruffled Norwich's feathers, they're more than capable of doing that again this year.
Absolutely. They drew 0-0 at Carrow Road earlier in the season. You know what you're going to get from Nigel Clough's Burton side. They accept their realities. They make it a scrap. Every point they really graft and earn, don't they? And yes, they've got this terrible home record, so presumably there's going to have some kind of psychological effect on the way they approach the game. But from talking to the guys at the Burton Mail, it looks like they play a five. They're going to be playing a five at the back, four in midfield, one up top. So they set up defensively. They've got big defenders at the back who are going to make it difficult, as Norwich found in the game last year and at home this year. So I put it to Daniel that it's going to be more than ever. It's going to be about taking your chances, isn't it? I mean, Burton are bottom of the Championship stats table for possession. They average about 43%, which is the lowest in the division. They average the fewest shots per game, which I think was about 8 shots a game they average. Yeah, 8.6, which again is the lowest in the Championship. Norwich's is around 15 shots a game, I think, something like that. So you can see how that game is shaping up already. Obviously, if they can get a goal, then you're really in a game, because they're just going to park the bus, aren't they? That's going to be the sort of game it is. So, now you've got Alex Pritchard fit and firing. Him and James Maddison are going to have to make the difference again, I think.
It was interesting. Even Steve Cottrell was going on about how the first goal on Boxing Day made such a difference. And you're probably right. Had Norwich just slipped behind, that game becomes completely different, as tends to happen, of course, week in, week out.
That's football, isn't it?
It is kind of the way it goes, exactly. Let's have a look. Richard Caston. Hello there, Richard. Glad that the TNT boys are back, which is, of course, Tom Tribble and Alex Tetty. Craig Brown. Got to pick the same 11 that beat Birmingham for Burton, which is a difficult one, because, of course, I've got Millwall coming up on Monday, a Millwall side that hasn't won away from home all season, by the way, and also got a good goalless draw at Villa a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Tetty said something good on that, didn't he? He said, well, hopefully Daniel wants to pick me again for Monday, because obviously 2 games in 3 days for him, particularly, even if he was sort of in full fitness, it would probably have been a strain on his knees. That's why he retired from international football. But he's coming back from an injury as well, so it's going to be a big ask of him. But he said if the manager needs him to do it, he'll just have to channel all his energy to make sure that he can do it. Because realistically, if he's struggling, you leave him out of the Chelsea game, don't you? That's one where you need to think about the league coming first, and you stick him on the bench, hope you can get a goal ahead, and stick him on in the second half if you need him.
Yes, indeed. And of course it all depends on how things go on Saturday, because in a parallel universe there might be 2 or 3 up, you never know, and Tetty might get a little bit of a rest. Some really good stuff with Alex Tetty in terms of his seniority in the squad now, and what he's doing and his role currently at Norwich. But of course the headline really was him talking about his future and being out of contract. I asked him what that meant, and he first gave a very excited woohoo, because I think he's kind of looking forward to it, then kind of reeled back because it was just a joke, of course. But I get the sense he's been at Norwich 6 years. He's given Norwich probably the best 6 years of his career. He quite fancies another challenge, I get the impression, possibly in England. He said it himself that he'd like to stay in England, which means if he is going to go and join Rosenborg to end his career, that might be after his next contract. Likewise, it's a big contract for him, isn't it, for a chance to earn some money, and Norwich will be in no way able to offer him anywhere near the money he's on now for an extension. So again, that's why I'm sure Alex is keeping his options open, and he did effectively say it's a big possibility, and I would say it's probably bigger than that he won't be here next season, and that will be his Norwich City spell at an end, which is, I guess, an interesting situation given this year he is proving just how important he is.
Yeah, well, 6 seasons, over 150 appearances. Everyone knows what you're going to get from Alex Tetty. He's not going to be spraying Steven Gerrard-esque passes around the pitch, is he? And you saw that straight away against Birmingham on Boxing Day. He just gave the balls to Treble and said, "You do the work. I'm here to sweep up." And the block from Jota early doors was exactly what Alex Tetty brings. He smelt the danger, he got there, he snuffed it out. So he's going to be an asset for anyone, really, particularly at this level. And if you can keep him fully fit and look after him, of course, I would have thought Norwich would probably be happy to keep for at least one more season. But it's going to come down to money. You can't avoid that. We did push him quite hard on it. I mean, obviously, when he was put up for doing media, the club, and he will have known that he's going to get asked about his future. So it sort of grasped the nettle in one way, hasn't it? And the full quotes, the full stories, I've just webbed it to PinkUn.com before we started this, which has got the video in as well. So you can sort of catch up with it in full there. But yeah, it was good. He's always been honest, hasn't he, Alex?
He's brilliant
when he talks. He's a good chap. He was freezing cold, wasn't he?
He was cold. Well, yeah, we mocked him for being cold because he's of course Norwegian. Yeah. But he said he'd just come out of the cryo chamber, which is minus 140.
Yeah,
that must be Fahrenheit. Or would that be lower?
Maybe.
Oh God, I didn't do science at A level, so.
But I suppose the thing is that it's an extreme temperature, isn't it? Because they're only in there for short amounts of time.
Indeed.
But I said to him, well, where you lived in Norway, wasn't it near the Arctic Circle? And he was like, yeah, but he wasn't having it, was he?
He wasn't wearing he wasn't like in his duffel coat or anything either, so that probably didn't help. Let's have a go through some. Oh, I've lost some of the comments. That's a shame. Thank you for your nice messages. We do appreciate those, and of course, we'll pass them all on to Paddy as well, who will be with us both at the Pirelli tomorrow. Let's have a look. David Brett, I've got a feeling we're going to lose Maddison and Pritchard in January.
I can't see not both. I just don't think that
they don't. It's worth reiterating. They don't have to sell anyone. No. So if they did sell one, they may pick and choose. And as I said, if Cardiff come in with a couple of million for Cameron Jerome, that could make a big difference.
What are you going to say for Pritchard then?
No,
I don't think so.
couple of.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of noughts.
There's no massive pressure on them there. I think, in fact,
not yet.
Steve Stone said that they were going to make a profit. The way the forecasts are working out, they're going to make a £2 million profit this season. So, yeah, it's finely balanced, but they don't have to sell. But if they were to sell Maddison, for instance, I cannot see them selling Pritchard in January as well, because I think fans would be justly very annoyed with that, because that is basically holding your hands up saying we're not getting promoted this month, and short of losing the next 3 games, they are still going to be in with a shout, even if it's a small one, of getting in the playoffs. So yes, maybe by the start of next season they won't be here, that's being realistic, but I just can't see both in January.
Yeah, I think what's worth saying is that the summer, if Norwich don't go up, will be carnage, effectively, in terms of financial
Michael
reality. It will. They are going to have to slash that wage bill in half, going on the rest.
Yeah,
that's very different to January.
They've not shied away from it, have they? They you had £40 million of parachute payments, then 30 million, then zero. So that has to be accounted for.
Exactly. Craig Brown, we have to be physical with Burton, win our individual battles. Like it, Craig. Make sure you tell the players if you see them beforehand. Stuart Cousins, Burton will beat Norwich on Saturday, as we always lose to the bottom team. Dave, do you want to tell him?
Birmingham were bottom on Boxing Day.
Norwich won. Positivity, Stuart, positivity. Mark Hayho. I hope that's your real name, Mark. I like that. Hayho. Mr. Hayho. I like that. Before all the transfer drama, predictions on finishing position come the end of the season.
There was a famous women's cricketer called Rachel Hayho Flint, wasn't there? I interviewed her once.
Did you?
I got a feeling. Yeah, she died, I think, last year, didn't she? Because she was a big Wolves supporter.
That's right.
I wonder if they're related at some point.
Well, quite possibly. You can't put off this question, though, Dave. You're going to have to answer it. Did you even hear the question? Predictions on finishing league position. Yeah, no.
Well, I predicted 8th at the start of the season, and I'd take that now, because that would be a pretty positive second half of the season. I think the playoffs is going to be a real big stretch, and you certainly aren't going to get there if you sell one of Maddison or Pritchard.
Nathan Hughes, okay for Jerome to go, providing we bring in a replacement striker first. We have only 2 proper strikers as it is. Can't sell one without a replacement in. And I have to say, and the debate about whether Norwich have enough striker options at the moment is one. I do think if Cameron Jerome goes, then there will certainly be someone that comes in as a replacement striker, most definitely.
Feels like it needs freshening up almost. I mean, if you're going to stick with Watkins as a striker, as we saw at Birmingham, he came on for Oliveira, didn't he? But obviously you've got the Carlton Morris issue. We were talking about it earlier, weren't we? The same as with Godfrey. It does seem best for his development for him to stay out for the season. But if they're going to bring in a Premier League loan player, say Ben Woodburn, like they've been linked with from Liverpool, what does that say to the academy players, really? I'm not sure that's the right message. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
We will do, indeed. Let's have a look. What else have we got here? I did see another one. It slipped my mind. Tom Hill, joined late. Any big news? Nah. But, just check out PinkUn.com. PinkUn.com. You'll be able to get a couple of bits in there as well. I think we've covered all bases, haven't we?
Yeah, we asked about Sean Raggett, didn't we?
Yep. And you did.
Basically, the answer was that it's as was at the moment. He's going to come back from Lincoln. They're going to have a look at him in training, see what they think. Whether he plays in the FA Cup game against Chelsea is one they've got to be careful with, because he can only play for 2 teams in a season by FIFA rules. So if he plays for Norwich in January, he's got to go back to Lincoln or stay here for the rest of the season.
I have to say the FA Cup game is the one game I can't see him playing in, because it rules him out going out on loan for the whole second half of the window. So I don't think they can afford it. It's very different to him being on the bench in a league game, for example. So.
And as Danny Cowley's already said to the local press in Lincoln, it's a heck of a game to be chucked into, isn't it, against the current champions. So, yeah, I think they genuinely haven't made a decision on that. The report today that Bradford are interested in him, and that several League One clubs we've heard of are keen to take him. So by the end of January, I suppose they will see where they want to go with Sean. But other than that, a little bit about Remy Matthews, who he has gone back to Plymouth on loan until the end of the season. That was confirmed this morning. And Ben Godfrey, a couple of days ago, his loan to Shrewsbury at the end of the season was extended. And I'd put it to Daniel, basically, do you see them as being in your first team squad when we come back for pre-season next summer? And that's pretty much how he sees it, that they will both be in contention. So they need to impress for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, they do very much indeed. Okay, Mark Hayho has put a smiley face, so I guess that means it is his real name. We'll take that. Tom Hill, in his opinion, Closer, Pritchard and Oliveira will all go in January. Cool, that'll be a lot of replacing. And Craig Brown, if we lose Pritchard and Closer, Pritchard and Oliveira, we could get relegated. You cannot keep selling players and replacing them with bang average players who are not good enough. Wow.
Closer, Closer has got a World Cup place to play for, isn't he? If he could get a move to a higher profile league, you probably wouldn't blame him, as long as Norwich get decent money. And then I suppose you've got Raggett to come into it, because Daniel did point out that they've sent Marcel Franco out on loan, so there is a bit of a space there. You've got Grant Hanley, of course, so close as possible if the right move came up for him.
I think if Russ ends up going out on loan, which seems highly likely, and as you said, Marcel's already gone, that would allow Raggett to be number 4. But
lucky boy.
Do you want him to be number 4? As much as he's training with Norwich, then is that good enough for his development? We'll have to see. Right, I think that cuts the mustard as far as I'm concerned. Thank you everyone for your messages, much appreciated. Thanks for watching. We will be heading up to the Pirelli tomorrow, of course, so you'll be able to follow our progress on the various social media, and of course PinkUn.com, where we'll have full live coverage of the game and all the analysis afterwards, as Norwich tried to do what they didn't quite manage last year and take something away from the Pirelli. They're going to be in their purple kit.
Yeah, which we saw in the pre-season game against Brighton,
yeah.
In one half anyway.
Yeah.
Quite like it, it's all right, but
yeah.
It's not Norwich City, is it?
It's going to be weird. But let's hope it's a good weird. Anyway, thanks very much, Dave. Thank you again, all of you, and we will see you on the road tomorrow. Until then, have a lovely Friday evening and try and extend that Christmas just a little bit longer. Cheerio.